A very good evening. I'd like to warmly, by protocol, acknowledge His Excellency, the High Commissioner, P.S. Karthikeyan. I'd also like to warmly welcome the Suva Retailers Association President. Can we give him a big round of applause? Thank you for your partnership in bringing us all together here this evening. I also like to acknowledge respected permanent secretaries and senior officials of government, industry leaders, heads of institutions, the Suva Retailers Association members, our friends from the media, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening. Tonight's event, oh my, it's so fitting with all the celebrations happening this week, but I'm not going to speak to that because I'm sure the gentlemen, one of them will definitely include that in the address this evening. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight is really about New India, your preferred destination for sourcing world-class products. You all may be aware that riding on a resurging global growth after the COVID-19 pandemic, India surpassed an all-time high $400 billion in exports in the last financial year, which means exports worth roughly 48 million every hour, ladies and gentlemen. Please, a big round of applause. For the Fijian business community also, there are unparalleled benefits available with the mighty Indian market, which has emerged as global leader across all the sectors, which are primarily drugs, pharmaceuticals and medical equipment, engineering goods, petroleum products, gems and jewelry, agriculture exports, inorganic and organic chemicals, electronic goods, and the list is endless, ladies and gentlemen. But we have, of course, to talk about the New India and give new heights to the existing bilateral trade. The High Commissioner will be speaking to that in just a moment. But before he does, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I'm actually going to have to excuse these gentlemen from the stage so that they're able to view the video presentation that'll be screened behind them. So thank you so much.
लगभग समय जितना ही प्राचीन, सूर्य जितना ही तेजस्वी और आकाश जितना ही विशाल, हमारे भारत देश का इतिहास। ज्ञान, विज्ञान और समृद्धि से सजा इतिहास, शौर्य, आध्यात्म और कलाकारी से छलकता इतिहास। अंग्रेजी हुकूमत ने देश को बेड़ियां पहनाई। एक हुए सब दीवाने देश के, आजादी की अलख जगाई। लाठी ऐनक वाले ने सत्याग्रह अनोखा छेड़ा। अनगिनत बलिदानों के बाद ये देश विदेशियों ने छोड़ा। लौह पुरुष ने लोहे सा अखंड बनाया भारत। आजादी की नींव पर खड़ी हुई ये भव्य इमारत। तभी आजादी ने कहा, मैं मंजिल नहीं, राह हूं, अभी तो मैं शुरुआत हूं। आधुनिक भारत के शिल्पियों ने दिशा दिखाई। उनके एक एक कदम के साथ देश ने एक छलांग लगाई। सपेरों का देश जिसे कहते थे, वही पहले प्रयास में मंगल तक पहुंचा। मेक इन इंडिया, इन 3 शब्दों ने दुनिया में हमारा नाम किया ऊंचा। आज हर घर में बिजली है, हर हाथ में मोबाइल फोन है, हर जेब में डिजिटल पहचान, हर खाते में डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट, हर रसोई में स्वच्छ ईंधन और हर आवास में इज्जत घर है। स्वच्छता और योग नए भारत के संस्कार हैं। वसुधैव कुटुंबकम, पूरा विश्व हमारा परिवार है। अंग्रेज कहकर गए थे, हमारे जाने के बाद देश तुम्हारा बिखर जाएगा। नहीं सोचा था उन्होंने कि भारत विश्व के सबसे विशाल लोकतंत्र के रूप में निखर जाएगा। आज भारत एक है, अखंड है और सबसे तेजी से आगे बढ़ती अर्थव्यवस्था है।
आत्मनिर्भर भारत, आत्मनिर्भर भारत।
आत्मनिर्भर भारत ये एक प्रकार से शब्द नहीं, ये आज 130 करोड़ देशवासियों के लिए मंत्र बन गया है।
आइए मनाते हैं स्वतंत्रता, एकता, विकास और लोकतंत्र के 75 साल। 2022 में भारत अपनी आजादी के 75 साल पूरे करेगा। आइए इस महापर्व की तैयारी में जुट जाते हैं। आइए बनाते हैं आत्मनिर्भर भारत। आइए मनाते हैं भारत की आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव।
Please, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask that we give another big round of applause? It's such a wonderful video presentation. The High Commissioner of India to Fiji, His Excellency P.S. Karthikeyan, arrived in Fiji in July of 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, he holds a bachelor as well as master's degree in economics from the University of Madras in India. During his earlier stints abroad, he had served in the High Commission of India in Maldives and also the Embassy of India in Damascus in Syria, handling political and commercial work besides other responsibilities. In the Ministry of External Affairs, it worked in the Policy Planning and Research Division and in the United Nations in the Economics and Social Division. Prior to joining the Indian Foreign Service, he worked in the public sector banking industry and also in the private manufacturing sector. So we're very, very honored and pleasured to have him here this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please give him a big round of applause to make him feel very welcome, the High Commissioner of India.
This AKAM video we just saw, I think perhaps this is the 20th time I'm seeing that, but every time we see that, there's goosebumps, in you. We're so immensely honored to represent this great country in this very special, beloved place. So let me start off with saying how honored we are, the High Commission of India, me and my team, to be present on this occasion today and welcoming you all to this presentation on New India, your preferred destination for sourcing world-class products. I should also say world-class services also. Ever since I came here in July 2021, I've been having a series of conversations with my friends, both at individual level as well as groups, to try and find reasons why, our commercial engagement has not been really as strong as our people-to-people engagement. And this event which we are doing today is a culmination of long such conversations I've had with many groups. But here I should say the Suva Retailers Association, hats off to them, hats off to their office bearers, the dynamic team that is behind them. I think we had the conversation sometime in February, the last week of February 2022. But within 3-4 weeks, we had finalized the event and we have finalized the venue. In fact, we should have done it a couple of weeks back, but because of some other circumstances, it could not be done. But really, tremendous work. So I'd like to sincerely compliment Mr. Jitesh Patel, his team of dedicated office bearers, and all of you who are assembled here today for partnering with the High Commission. It is a very important initiative and a very timely initiative. As you all see, we are celebrating the 75 years of Indian independence as part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Just to give a small kind of, to take a detour, I'll just like to give very briefly the objective behind this Mahotsav which we are celebrating. Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav has 3 major objectives. 1, To, of course, remember the sacrifices made by countless freedom fighters during our freedom struggle. They gave up their everything for what we are enjoying, what we are taking as granted today. Millions of them, nameless, countless. So it's an opportunity to kind of remember their sacrifices, their ultimate sacrifices. Two, to of course, look back at the 75 years, of glorious independence, what we have accomplished, the achievements the last 75 years. And then finally, to plan for the future, where India should be when we are celebrating India at 100 in 2047. These are the major objectives, and the program which we are doing fits in right exactly into this context. Of course, I think Michelle was alluding to this. We are also fortunate that this event happens right in the days leading to the Gurmat Day here in Fiji. So that makes it all the more special, India and Fiji, our relationship goes back to 1879, 143 years back. Destiny brought us together. Both of us had no control over our destiny at the time, just like it was, we were a colonial colony, and so was Fiji. But I think it happened that, we were brought together 143 years back. But since then, it was our choice. It was the choice of the descendants of the Girmathias, the Indian immigrants, and the brothers and sisters of Fiji, who decided to take destiny in their hand and build this beautiful, harmonious relationship. This goodwill, immense goodwill, which I'm seeing every day, unfortunately has not translated into tangible engagement, tangible commercial engagement, tangible other areas of engagement. It has remained, we have till this day, a beautiful relationship, warm, affectionate, a lot of goodwill, a lot of visibility for India, but it has not really gone to the next step. So that is where we come in here. We thought we should have an event, perhaps because this is not happening, because there has been a legacy mindset. People are caught in a time warp. They do not really know what India of today is. So this is a small attempt. Of course, I cannot cover everything in the next 10 minutes or so, but it is just, of course, I think it will give you a window, a small peep into what India is today. Then, of course, subsequent, queries we'll be more than happy to address during the Q&A, or you can always contact us. We have an open house in the High Commission. So let me start off now. This presentation I have structured, I said it's a simple presentation. I think it is only, 12 or 14 slides. It has three parts. One about what India of today is. Second part, India-Fiji engagements, the relations as well as the commercial engagement and opportunities. And the third part is what is being done and what ought to be done, okay? So this is what the new India is. You've just seen in that video, beautiful video that was shown a few minutes back, that India is an ancient civilization. It's a continental country. It is soon going to be the world's largest country in terms of population in a few years' time. But besides that, thousands of years of culture and heritage, what we need to know right now, India is the world's largest and most vibrant democracy. It is the touchstone, it is the benchmark for democracy in the world. Not many people actually gave it a chance when we got independence in 1947, that we will survive, forget about thriving. So this is where we are. And of course, one of our core strength is unity in diversity, with hundreds of languages, hundreds of customs, thousands of dialects, all the major religions of the world, and at least 3-4 of them originating from India, all of them living in harmony. So that is again a core strength of us. Coming to the economy side, we are the world's third largest economy by purchasing power parity, and by nominal terms, GDP nominal terms, I think we should be the 6th largest economy. And one thing which we take great pride is our scientific and technological manpower. This was solely built by independent India, not those that was left behind by the British colonial power. This was solely the hard work of our own independent India. We are now recognized as a brand, as a leading brand across the world. Just look at any CEOs in the top 500 or 100 Fortune companies. The chances are that half of them, if not will be trained from India, if not more. And coming to the military might, we have the second largest standing army in the world. The international arena, we are recognized because we know what it is to be a colony. We know what it is to be a developing country. We know how it feels, in the high table where we have to fight for our rights, every minute. So we have taken that role to be the voice of the Global South and have been acknowledged as the leader of the Global South. And of course, we are also acknowledged as a rising global power because of all those things that I have mentioned above. Going on to the next slide, which is Atmanirbhar Bharat, as mentioned by our Honorable Prime Minister in the video. Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan is an initiative, is a vision of the Government of India to develop and drive a self-reliant India. It's not as some of them assume a kind of a closed kind of a vision. It is not something which is focusing on the domestic part and not looking at the integration. This is actually to make India stronger so that it can play its rightful role in the global committee and it can play its rightful role in the integrated, globalized world. So to give you some statistics, this figure at the top, this is the size of the Indian GDP in this year, 2022, 3.2 trillion US dollars, which is in Fijian dollars, you should double it. It's like $6.4 trillion economy. And this economy is growing at the rate of 9.2%, which, ladies and gentlemen, is the fastest among any large economy in the world. And I was a few moments back talking about colonial rule and the colonial experience. I do not know how many of you are aware, about 80 years back in 1942, one of the most traumatic experience humanity has ever seen happened in India under the British colonial rule. It is simply known as the Bengal famine. We lost 29 million people to this famine just because they could not get food grains. We had all the food grains in the world at the time, but it was diverted as a standby option for somebody in Europe. So we lost 29 million lives, priceless lives at that time, but now where we are one of the largest exporter of food grains in the world. Last year, India was the largest exporter of rice to the world. And it is the same if you look at wheat, if you look at sugar, if you look at anything else, cotton, tea, either we are at the top or we are in number 2 or number 3 position. And of course, going beyond agricultural sector, which contributes about 15% to our GDP, we have, not many people would know, because all of them think that India is predominantly agricultural country. Not many people know that the major segment of our GDP is contributed by service sector, which contributes 61% of our GDP. Manufacturing comes with about 24, the balance 15% comes from the agricultural sector. So that is how we are. We are actually a service-dominated economy. And then other major advantage which we are now having, lucky to have, is we are harvesting the demographic dividend. We are going to have the youngest workforce in the world. Right now we have it, and it is going to remain the same in the next 3-4 decades. When the rest of the world is going to age, and the median of the working force is going to be like 50 and above, we are going to have people in the age group of 25. So you can imagine what these people can do with their skill set, with their technology, and with their education. And then again, it's a technology-driven and future-ready economy, and this, the context of this event, Make in India and Made for the World. Now, we can have a very brief look at what is actually driving this, what is actually driving the world to look for India for its sourcing requirement. The low cost due to the economies of scale, technology, and productivity. Mind you, this has got nothing to do with cheap products. It's not cheap we are talking about. What we are talking about is competitive cost, okay? It is driven solely by economies of scale. You are looking at the largest domestic market in the world. Indian market is right now number 2, but in 2 years' time or 3 years' time will be the largest country in the world. So you are really looking at one of the largest economies in the world. So there is tremendous economies of scale. That benefit is given to our partners who import products from India. And then, of course, massive infusion of technology and the productivity that goes with a skilled set of, and educated kind of a workforce we have. Number 2 is the vast product categories and specialities, which again is not really surprising given the complexity of our own market and the requirements of the global, market. Premium quality and logistically very well connected. I think some of you may not agree because if you're looking at it bilaterally from India-Fiji aspect, perhaps it may not really sound well. But if you look at the geographical position of India in a world map, you will understand what I'm talking about. It's right in the middle of the global, junction. There are transit routes for major trade. So it is very well located. And the speed to the market and ease of doing business and transparent systems are other major factors that are driving the world to look for sourcing from India. Not many people would know that India is also one of the largest exporters in the world. Why is it possible? Because we have a very business-friendly government, and a lot of macro reforms have been done to drive this export. There are many actually. To just list out a few, even using the COVID time, the break which we had because of the pandemic, we had brought in major transformational reforms, either in terms of unifying the tax structure, either in terms of making the labor laws friendly, bringing in the bankruptcy code, liberalizing the foreign direct investment, or bringing in the production-linked incentive scheme in 14 sectors. I'll explain that in detail in the other slides. And Gati Shakti, this is one thing which I think you should be aware of. It is meant to clear the logjam we had in the infrastructural space some time back. It is a massive project for which the government of India has committed $1.5 trillion over the next decade to make sure that our logistics is second to none in the world. This will, of course, cover every aspect. It's not just ports, airports, multimodal transit points, railways, roadways, national highways. It covers 7 areas. The idea is to make sure that the amount of time spent and the GDP, percentage of GDP spent on logistics is minimized so that everybody down the line gets the maximum advantage from this. And then other flagship schemes like Make in India, which we saw in the video, Digital India and Startup India, they're all like driving the exports from India. Startup India, I'll take a minute or so to kind of give you something interesting on Startup India. Yesterday, I think, or day before yesterday, I managed to see something interesting about it. I know some of you would know about unicorns. Unicorn is a term that's used quite often in the technology world to describe a startup, a technology-based startup, which has achieved a market valuation of $1 billion. Last year, in 2021-22, next to USA, India had the largest number of unicorns coming in just 1 year. And I think we had in 2011 or 12 one unicorn, and last week we touched the 100th mark. Imagine, the kind of transformation these people are playing. These are first-generation entrepreneurs who had absolutely no background, who had no resources to back them, nothing. The country gives them such opportunity that they can become, in a decade or so, with committed, goal, service, skill, they can become billionaires. I will also, I think, like to share here the example of Flipkart. I do not know how many of you are aware. People who know about Amazon, eBay, and Alibaba perhaps would know about Flipkart. I used to work in Bangalore many years back, and this company was started in a garage, typically like many of these technology-driven companies, by two young graduates from Indian Institute of Technology. And this company, within 10 years, or 15 years rather, it became one of the biggest e-commerce players in the world. And Walmart, the global leader in retail industry, was forced to shell out $19 billion to buy this company. This was possible, and this is possible only in India. I don't think, you can think of any other countries where such things happen with people who have absolutely no backup. But this is what is happening in India, and this is what is driving the economy, and this is what is also driving the exports. Just to finish the slide, the statistics from this year, I think it was mentioned by Michelle. We had a record export. She mentioned $400 billion. Actually, to be exact, it is $417 billion in merchandise goods and $250 billion in service exports. So together, it's like $670 billion. But we are poised for interesting times, and the target for the next 2 years is that we will cross $1 trillion in exports. Now, of course, we are coming to India-Fiji. It's a story of a very special and enduring bond we have. Of course, as I said, we have a shared destiny going back to the colonial era, and both of us struggled and attained salvation as a sovereign independent country. We did in 1947, and you did it in 1970, October 10th. After that, we have built on the foundation of people-to-people ties, very strong ties we have. On the foundation of that, we built a very strong modern and multifaceted relations, but it was primarily focused on the development partnership aspect, capacity building, capability development, things like that. But our relationship, despite the huge contrast in size, in scale, and everything, our relationship has always been marked by mutual respect, cooperation, trust. These are the three words that define our relationship. Of course, as I said, people-to-people ties and shared culture and kinship gives a very unique flavor to our relationship. In terms of the commercial engagement, what has happened between the two countries? You go back to the initial period, the colonial period, the Gurmit era. It is the individual entrepreneurship. There was odd linkage between India and Fiji, which was happening between the individuals, sometimes small companies. Later on, there was this major development which came with the establishment of Indian public sector units in Fiji. You should look at it. It was done in the colonial era, long before Fiji got independence in 1970. Our people, Government of India, owned companies, including the New India Assurance, whose CEO is here, the Bank of Baroda, and the LIC, the Life Insurance Corporation of India. They are the ones who actually built up the life insurance sector, the non-life insurance sector, and the banking sector in this country. I think they deserve a huge round of applause. This is something, why I'm mentioning that here is, this is not something which most people are aware of. And our companies also sometimes they do not really bother much. Not now, but I'm talking about the time in the past. They didn't really bother about perception management or publicity. They were focused on their work, which was life insurance, non-life insurance, and banking. They were doing exceptionally good. That is what actually drives them to be in the leading position even today. But the fact remains that their contribution remains largely unrecognized. It's important that, the captains of the retail industry who are assembled here, they get to know about this. And the next part, as I said, initially we were focusing on development partnership, capability development, capacity building, and of course also contribution to the agricultural and MSME sector, medium, small, micro enterprises sector. These were the things which were the defining elements in our commercial engagement in that period of time. Yeah, this is like a study in contrast. When you look at part 2 of the commercial engagement, we had enormous goodwill, but we had very modest aspiration. We didn't really aim to convert that into a tangible engagement. I think perhaps it was on both sides. We had these natural advantages, culture, same, language, same. We had a lot of links, family, societal, business. We all had links. We had the presence of PSUs, insurance companies were there, banking industry was there, non-life insurance was there, and of course now we have WAPCOs also, which is a project consultancy agency. But these natural advantages were not made use of. These were like lost opportunities. One strong reason I have found in my 10 months of stay here, in my conversations with our people, friends here, otherwise very well-meaning people, is most of them are yet to come out of the legacy mindset. They're caught in a time warp. Perhaps because India didn't really bother to market itself well, as our companies did. We're focusing on our core work, on our partnership, and we thought that is good enough. But I think perhaps it's not. So now we have taken this initiative to come to the people, to come to the town, come to the captains of the industry to say what it is and what it ought to be. So right now, if you look at our commercial engagement, this is bilateral both ways, India's export as well as Fiji's exports to India, okay? Both of them combined together is less than $60 million US. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a very disappointing figure. We want this to change. We have the potential to make it 10x easily, provided both of us put our heart, soul, and mind into this job. Now, where are the trade opportunities that are lying in this bilateral, scenario? Some of them already very well. These are also now major contributing sectors in our, bilateral trade. But there is immense scope still in expanding them further. Drugs and pharmaceuticals, for example, if you take it, the first one, drugs, pharmaceuticals, medical equipment, and hospital supplies. I don't think many of you would know that 8 out of top 20 generic companies in the world are Indian companies. 8 out of top 20 generic companies in the world are Indian companies, I repeat. And they export, I think 55% of the total exports go to the highly regulated markets like United States, United Kingdom, Europe, and other developed markets. Why they're able to do that? Because of the very strong foundation we have in research and development, the economies of scale, the technology that we have invested into this sector over the last 75 years. It is little surprising that Fiji, which is almost entirely dependent on imports to meet its requirement in this sector, is not getting much from India or from Indian companies. There are many factors, perhaps some of them can say it's logistics. Some of them says that it is because of certain regulations that we need to have British pharmacopoeia labeling on the products. India has gone far ahead. Our Indian pharmacopoeia is a standard by itself now. We have come away from the colonial era, and we no longer have the British pharmacopoeia labeling. It is on par with the British pharmacopoeia labeling, if not better than that. So it is something that you need to think. The captains of the retail industry here need to think, because it's not just a question of exporting Indian drugs and pharmaceuticals and medical equipments to Fiji. The market as such is small, but the kind of value addition you are losing by not doing it is immense. The exchequer is losing, because I know 40% of the procurement happens through the government channel, and the consumer, the patient in this case, who already is facing the trauma of illness or injury, is forced to pay more, in some cases 5x, 10x times, to get the same product which you would have got it from India, an Indian company, at a fraction of the cost. So people need to look at this and see where they need to do the course correction. We have been taking up with all concerned, including the regulators and the concerned authorities, the top. But it's also important that, like you people who are one of the most important stakeholders in this relationship, also take a serious look at this and see how it can be readdressed. High Commission remains open to engage with you on this matter. I don't want to take too much time on the other segments, except to say very briefly that farm machinery and equipment, we are the second largest exporters in the world, and we have the widest range that is required. It can meet the requirements of a developing country or a developed country. It can meet people requirements in agriculture, allied sectors, anything. It can meet the requirements of our friends in Fiji. The rest of the commodities, just quickly read it so that we'll not waste time on this. Agricultural products, frozen fruits, vegetables, and smartphones, gadgets, wearables. This is one thing which I will just take a minute. We have exported in the last year, 2021, 2022, smartphones worth $6 billion US, that is 12 billion Fijian dollars, to some of the most advanced economies in the world. These are all global brands. We have 3 plants manufacturing iPhones. We have Samsung. We have Oppo. We have Vivo. Every known global brand is there. But again, another puzzling thing is that in Fiji, I don't think there are any smartphones which are made in India. These are competitive products, competitively priced products. It adds a lot of value to you if you bother to look at the Indian market for sourcing your requirement. Next, I think light engineering, machinery, lighting products, renewable energy, solar panels, battery systems, electric vehicles, and charging systems. These two, renewable energy, solar panels, battery systems, and electric vehicles, I think is going to play a major role in the coming years and decades. Because as the world goes green, they will be looking for these things to ensure that their requirement is taken care. We are here ready to supply the requirements in this segment. In the next list, I think you have the traditional commodities, Ayurvedic and herbal products, textiles, garments, gems, jewelry, two-wheelers, auto components, OEMs, steel, metal and non-metal, footwear and leather products, plastic products, refined petroleum products, organic, inorganic chemicals, and organic fertilizers. In fact, here I will just stop for a minute on refined petroleum products. Again, this is one area where I think you meet almost 100% of your requirements from abroad. But you do not know that India is the largest supplier of refined petroleum products to Australia, just in the neighborhood. And this is the fastest growing merchandise product export from India to Australia in the last 3-4 years. I know that because I was in charge of the commercial wing for 4 years before July 2021 in Australia. Other trade opportunities, not necessarily in the merchandise area, but perhaps in the services segment, is I think you need to take a serious look at engaging India or using the Indian expertise for your project consultancy. And considering the world-renowned IT sector we have, development and maintenance of IT systems, information technology systems, partnership, possible collaboration in the business process outsourcing, app development, because this is one area where we have seriously gone ahead in the last couple of years. In fact, even in our management of the COVID pandemic, we extensively deployed a digital technology and apps to make sure that 1.3 billion population is covered. It will be interesting for you to note that we have already covered 1.9 billion vaccination doses till now, and we are shortly poised to cross the 2 billion mark. All of them using a single app called CoWIN. It covers everything from expression of interest to get vaccinated to the issue of a digital vaccination certificate. Everything is covered by this single app called CoWIN. Imagine what kind of force multiplier it will be for industries like you. Not really CoWIN, but there are hundreds and thousands of apps that are being developed that can transform your business overnight. And then again, the things I'll run through: technology development, sourcing of customized technology, design, diagnostics, and remote services and prototyping. So now, You may ask, okay, these are the opportunities and this is what has happened in the past. So what have you done? So the High Commission, has taken, I know it is at the end of the day, a decision that is being taken by two business parties, but we, as an important facilitator, can play the role of a catalyst. That is what we are doing. So we have initially started by making sure that we give the highest priority to our commercial engagement, which has been not the case in the past. And we are trying to better understand the requirements, the unique characteristics of the Fijian market, so that we can accordingly, make sure that there is a tailor-made solution that is available from India to our Fijian friends. We made sure that we have open access to the mission, as I mentioned, and we have a dedicated officer now for the commercial wing. We have developed database. We have made sure that there is a response to any commercial queries that comes to our High Commission. I'm sure any one of you who has bothered to contact the High Commission for any commercial queries would not have had an opportunity to complain about lack of a response, at least in the last 10 months. We made sure that every single query that has come our way is responded. And of course, we are also making sure, as I said, feeding back the unique characteristics and requirements of Fiji to our own export promotion councils, industry bodies, and the Ministry of Commerce, so that the response is tailor-made to Fiji. What is the way ahead? In terms of what we propose to do, we will certainly have more frequent interaction. We will organize business-focused events like we are doing now. We have already lined up the next 2-3 events. My commercial officer, I think, can give the details if anyone is interested to know. I think perhaps it is in the information technology sector and in the traditional medicine, and I think these are the two in the next run. And we are also planning to have buyer-seller meets in the high-demand areas. We'll have a focused buyer-seller meets in high-demand areas. This, either we can have it in person or we can leverage the technology. I think COVID has taught us many lessons. One is, of course, to use Zoom, video conferencing, and other things to build business partnerships. So we are ready to do that, and we'll be happy to do and give the High Commission space to ensure that this is done. You need not do anything. We can organize it and we can host it there in our High Commission. We'll be happy to do that. And we have also worked with our headquarters to make sure that there is a dedicated desk set up in Ministry of Commerce with representatives from all export promotion councils. We have 27 export promotion councils in India. We will have a dedicated desk operating shortly, focusing on the Oceania region, majorly on Fiji. And we will, of course, make sure that there is a systemic follow-up on this business queries. So what, again, it means is we will continue to come to you, all the stakeholders, to the retailers, to the manufacturers, to the service providers, to make sure that you are aware of what is New India, because this is the very first step. You need to be properly informed. So we will continue this series of sessions to create that awareness. Of course, we'll follow that up with engagement with the stakeholders and enhance possibly the trade engagement with you in the years ahead. So I think that is it from my side in terms of the presentation. I'm sure there will be many queries from your side. I have not been able to really spend too much time, but I'll be happy to take the questions in my Q&A session. If it is not possible to do that here because of paucity of time, this is the contact of our commercial officer in the High Commission. We'll be happy to ensure that all your queries are dutifully addressed. This is Mr. Devi Prasad Gupta, who is present here. Devi? This is the gentleman, Mr. Devi Prasad Gupta. He is the commercial officer. His coordinates are here, com.suva@mea.gov.in, and mobile is this, 679, that's the ISD code, and 2951298. That is his mobile number. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for sparing your beautiful evening with us. It means a lot to the High Commission. I am sure it means a lot to the Suva Retailers Association also. We are greatly delighted with this fantastic start to our partnership. We look forward to many such engagements with Suva Retailers Association and anyone else who is willing to partner us to make sure that there is a meaningful outcome at the end of it. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask that we give the High Commissioner another big round of applause, please? I also want to mention, Mr. Gupta, we also have his card available at our registration table. So in case you just missed out on his details that were up on the screen, I think our guys at the registration table have invited you to pick up a card as well and drop your business card as well in the bowl before you leave, ladies and gentlemen, because that, of course, will provide them an opportunity. All your business cards will go to the team at the Indian High Commission. They'll be happy to, to reach out. I know we don't have a lot of time for Q&A, but I say we still have some time this evening for networking. So in any case you do have a question, you can always see Mr. Gupta, you can always see His Excellency to raise any of your questions. Again, ladies and gentlemen, it's such a wonderful evening, and I mean, you've heard so much with regards to what's available, the different engagement platforms, and the wonderful opportunities for you. So we do encourage you tonight, like we've always done, for all events like this, for you to meet with them, to network, and look at where you can, marry your efforts together for the best opportunity. In a moment, I'm going to... All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've been advised that yes, His Excellency would like to hear from you. If you do have any questions, we have microphones that are being circulated right now. So we have one here up in the front, and we're going to move one toward the middle. So please, you can just very quickly raise your hand. All right. I can see you already gather to discuss your possible question. This again, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the entire presentation. You're looking at the opportunities that are available for you to be able to partner with the Indian High Commission, creating these avenues for you, for your business, regardless of what type of business you're in. I think this is an opportunity for us to discuss. And don't worry, in any case you're worried about the kind of question you're going to ask, it's all right. You're amongst friends and family, so please don't worry. All right. Your Excellency, I can see a lot of people already discussing, so I'm sure they have questions, but they'd rather address that with you at a personal level and also with Mr. Gupta. But thank you for availing yourself to answer any of the questions that may arise. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is primarily one of the reasons why we have these events. It allows for the networking, and it allows for opportunities for us to engage with those who are hosting the event for us. At this time, I'd like to invite, we'll be opening the bar shortly. Can I get your attention? Don't you worry, we're opening the bar shortly. We've come to the end of our formalities, ladies and gentlemen. So I'd like to invite Mr. Patel to come forward as the SRA President to move the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. His Excellency the High Commissioner, Permanent Secretaries of the Government, and members of Diplomatic Corps, CEOs of various organizations, fellow members, good to see a good crowd again today, and it's always the same at all SRA functions. I welcome you all, and thank you for taking your time out for this function. Today, as you know, as they say, it's a new India. It's fitting that it's a Gurmit week going on. Our forefathers came to Fiji a long time ago, and now we are trying to help India to increase trade between our two countries. I hope we'll take this opportunity this High Commission of India has set up for us, the trade office. Let's take advantage of it and enjoy the facilities that they're going to give. I'd like to thank you all. I will thank my board members who have worked hard to have this event set up, especially Raju, who worked tirelessly to have this event a successful one. Thank you, everyone.